Hello, this is Laura Wade, and I am here today to talk a little bit about our Krasner readings. So let's jump right in. I'm going to start with the second reading. The second reading talked about a paradox that the actor has on stage, because the actor is the actor and the actor is the character. And the actor and the character are both living truthfully on stage. But just as if the actor is looking off stage and is supposed to see something spectacular, the truth is they have to find a way that is truthful, that they are actually seeing something spectacular. But at the same time, they are seeing the offstage curtain. They are an actor. So I thought that it was a really neat way. We all know this, but it was a neat way to express it in this chapter about the paradox of living as the actor and the paradox of living as the character. So I thought that was pretty cool. It talked a little bit about tension. Tension is our way when our body is in pain. We have a tenseness that can stifle that pain. But the tension will stifle the imagination and creativity. And that's why it's important to be relaxed. They talked a little bit about actors' tasks, and that if we look at an action is a tactic for the character, a task is a tactic for the actor. And so they both have their own role to play. But if you can get to fabulous truth and believability on stage, then you're doing what you're supposed to do, and the task is working for you. The task is something that the audience should not necessarily know. The task is something that the actor uses to achieve these believable behaviors within the character. So I thought that was pretty neat. The two realities coexist on stage, the paradox realities. I thought that was pretty well said in there. Neither can be denied, it said, and both must be allowed. So the actor is still an actor. It lives within them. The character does. And I really like this chapter because it was a different way of looking at acting, even though, like I said, it's something that we kind of already know, that a character is on stage. Even when we go to the theater as the audience, we know that these are real actors playing these characters. We don't think that Cyrano de Bergerac is actually on stage. We know that it is an actor playing Cyrano. So I think that was a neat thing, but we kind of already know it, but it was a very well said chapter, the way it was done. Okay. Probably my favorite chapter that we have read so far in the Krasner was the first chapter that we were supposed to read. If you couldn't tell by my writing, I was in love a little bit with the boldness of the writer. It was written by Deb Margolin, and she wrote a little bit about how she got into theater and how she wasn't really an actor, and she met this Russian lady. She couldn't completely remember her name, except that she had fabulous pedicures and she wore sandals in the winter, which I love that. What a great character description. And she kind of went through going through a change exercise in this woman's salons. They called them, like an acting expedition. And I kind of put in there that it reminded me of an improv game, because it did. It reminded me of multiple improv games, like the Change game, if you've ever played that game. It reminded me of Touch Monologue a little bit more in its process. And I kind of described that in the writing. But I can see where if you and the character are going back and forth, like you're playing Touch Monologue together, if you're going back and forth, you would weave together and intertwine, and you would not... It'd be easier to see, or harder to see, where the character stops and the actor begins, and vice versa. And so I could see why that is a really cool exercise. And I think it was life-changing for her to watch it and to do it. So I thought that was really neat. I would love to steal that exercise in a time when I have a lot of time to work with an actor on a production. I think that was really great. I love the title, Mining My Own Business, and that it is within you and you must mine it. Talent in general, I always feel that it's within every actor that we work with, but you are allowing them to find it, to mine it. It's there. Everything that they already have, you teach them skills, but all of that lives within them, and you just have to help them find it. So that I thought was great. I love the expression to loosen the voice from where it is held. I use different expressions of the same thing, that we speak and we sing and we act within this very small range of our voices, but we do have huge voices. Our voice has an enormous range, and the voice is a muscle and it can be stretched. So when I work with kids on singing, they're at a certain place when they begin. And I have some adult students as well. And I tell them that if you work and you stretch this muscle, your range will grow. And so it's really cool to see as we test range throughout the year, oh, wow, I gained 3 notes on the top and 3 notes on the bottom of my range. And so that can happen. And so I loved that saying, and I feel like I will use that even in acting classes. Let's sigh, let's release the voice from where we hold it within those first, few notes that we reside in. And then it talks a little bit about method. She was very, like a cheerleader for method acting, and she talked a little bit about that, and that was one of my takeaways, that it is a way to creating an inner life that comes from self but is also embedded in the character. So using the method to in yourself to find that character. Let's see, and then the gap between fact and fiction, we use imagery in our imagination, and it says the actor must have the skills. So if you have this amazing imagination, you can create this fabulous character. If you don't have the skills to portray that character, to make that character believable on stage, then your character is not going to achieve what your imagination. It's just like I do artwork and I love to do visual art, but I've only taken a few classes. My mind creates better art than my hand can make. I can do it, but it's not as good as what my mind imagines it being. And I'll watch a YouTube video, or I'll do a Bob Ross or something like that. And I mean, Bob Ross and we can hang pretty close together. I feel like I can get a Bob Ross that looks like Bob Ross. But for me to free draw something without someone teaching me, my mind can imagine more than I can do. And so I thought that was neat for acting too. You can imagine something, but if you don't have the skill, if you don't go to acting class and you don't really take it seriously, you're not gonna be able to create the characters that you know that you can create. And I thought that was a great mention. Sometimes there is a lot that, oh my gosh, I love this section. So in the book, she talks about these like areas of your personality that could only be explored while you are playing the character. I love that. And I mentioned being the villain. I've been the villain multiple times. I'm usually cast as like the sweet one, but I have been the villain and I have loved being the villain. I try not to be a villain in my normal life, but obviously there is something about my personality that enjoys being the villain. So I think that is a little bit troubling to myself that I want to be the villain that badly, but I thought that's what she's really saying. There's areas of your personality that you could explore by playing characters. And I think that is a therapeutic thing for people to be able to see what kind of a person actually am I. And you're probably millions of people. Not to be schizophrenic, but you probably have many areas of your personality, but we follow the rules and we do what we're supposed to do and we don't explore those. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then she mentioned multiple choice acting, and I kind of took it as a little bit out of her context, what she was talking about, using all these different sources to create a character. But it kind of is, if you know different methods of actor training, or different classical styles that you can pull. Like I remember, and I don't use it that often because I think it's a very mild area, and I don't even know what actor training it came from, but I had an acting teacher one year do an entire semester on archetypes. And when I did professional improv, I used archetypes a lot when you have to drop in right away. And that was her thing. When you walk into an audition and you want to drop right in, what is the essence of this character? Is this character the innocent? Is this character the cynic? Is this character the miser? What is the archetype of this character? And with young people, it's very easy. If you work with high school kids, they see archetypes around a high school all day long. And that people kind of fit into these titles and boxes. And so that's just one tool that you can use. And I liked this multiple choice acting because you can pull, depending on what method you have learned that fits the need you have right then, that's the method that you need to use. And that's the multiple choice acting. So I thought that was great. Overall, absolutely love the chapter. I thought she was unbelievably brave. She went into some of that kind of sexual stuff that I was like, I had to keep looking at the front of the book. Like, what book am I reading? About meeting the guy and acting just for the guy. In one of her shows, if you want to meet me, come down here. And she had a heightened sense because she had a purpose for what she was doing. And I thought that was really fun to read. I didn't write about that part, but I thought that was brave. And I think a lot of times we don't write that way. So Well, I'm excited. It's a Wednesday, and I got, you don't have to keep watching because I'm at 9 minutes, but we have a hurricane coming. I live in Florida, right south of Tampa and slightly inland. And sometimes we'll have a hurricane that says it's coming to Tampa, and it will cut in right underneath that and hit us directly. And I've been through Hurricane Charlie. I lived on the coast, and we went through, I taught high school at the time, theater. I was 24 years old. I was just out of graduate school. Running this huge theater program that had been going on for 30 years, and the man had retired to run the performing arts center that the theater was being housed in, the theater program. And so I took over that job, and I would work there 5 days, and we had Hurricane Charlie, and the entire place was gone other than the performing arts center. But the entire high school was gone. None of my kids had homes. I mean, just insanity. So I've lived kind of through that. And so anytime you see one, it makes you a little nervous. A lot of times we evacuation, we call it, where we just leave the state and we're gone for a week or so, and then we come back. Now my kids are grown. One's in college at University of Florida area, and so she's coming home tonight. They canceled school. She's coming home, and I think we're going to be okay. I had emailed our professors saying that I don't know if I'm going to get my work done because I don't know if I'm going to have power, but I am rushing, and I think that I'm going to get it all done. So I'm really excited, and it looks like the hurricane is a large hurricane, which means they're pretty stable. And when they say where it's going to go, it's probably going to go within that cone. It's the small ones, like the one that hit us in 2004, Charlie, was very small and erratic and very powerful. And if you've never lived through a hurricane, I'm sure wherever you live, you have tons of different natural disasters. In Florida, we have tornadoes and hurricanes, but hurricanes are the ones that we obviously deal with the most. And you see some sights that will craft you as a human that you didn't know you would see something like that would really affect you. And Hurricane Charlie, for example, we evacuated to an inland area. And when we went to come home, the next day we went to the little town on the way home, and there was National Guard outside that said, you can't come in, we have some deaths. So, okay. So then we take another road, we get on I-75 and we go south in Florida. Took us forever to get home. We finally get home. And as we're driving towards our house, there is an auto parts store, no roof, no front. All the little racks still had goods hanging on the racks. Semi truck sitting inside the store. These are the kinds of things you would see. And so once you live through that, you go, I don't know that I want to live through that again. And if you have the means to get out, you get out. But this hurricane started in South America. Instead of being off of Africa, it started in Central America. And we haven't had the time. So it was like I found out Monday that we were probably going to have this hurricane within a few days, and that it was going to be between a Cat 1 and a Cat 5. And a Cat 5 is total destruction. And I've seen a Cat 5, Hurricane Andrew in Miami. I was part of that. And I was a kid. I was, in middle school, but the places that I would loved and went to were just mangled messes and nothing was left. And then Charlie was a Cat 3 to a Cat 4. So I've seen it, and I'm like, I don't want to go through it, and I might not have power for weeks, but now it looks like we have a better idea. It's probably a Cat 3 verging on a Cat 4. It's going to hit the Big Bend of Florida, which is pretty far from us, and we're just going to get nasty weather and have no banks or schools or anything open, but we're going to survive. So anyway, all right. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to see you later, and see you next week.